SigTalks, episode 013, a sneak peek behind-the-scenes look at Sigafoose.com.
Hello, and welcome to SigTalks with your host, Dr. Carey Sigafoose, your home for the chiropractic philosophy, where we discuss the teachings of Dr. James Sigafoose, from his writings to his talks and his many audio presentations.
Hello, we're changing things up again a little bit this week. I have Ed Osburn from the Chiropractic Philanthropist and Chris Burfield from Market from the Heart and the Chiropractic Underground. I'm going to actually be interviewed along with Chris by Ed, so sit back, relax, and find out a little bit what's going on behind the scenes at Sigafoose.com.
All right, so SigTalks listeners, we're flipping the switch on Dr. Carey Sigafoose today. And so I'm Dr. Ed Osburn of the Chiropractic Philanthropist, and I'm actually going to be interviewing both Chris Burfield of the Chiropractic Underground and, of course, Dr. Carey Sigafoose of SigTalks today. And our whole purpose today is really just to kind of see, how this partnership between Chris Burfield and also between Dr. Carey Sigafoose actually happened. I'm so interested to find out the whole story behind this. And so Carey, why don't you go ahead and say hello? But I also want you to kind of share with your listeners the purpose behind Sigafoose.com. Like, how did you come up with this idea?
Oh, wow. Big, long question. Try to give you a short, nice answer. For my listeners and for the people who don't know, of course, I started with the whole Sigafoose.com is when my father passed away, but it actually started well before that. I had been trying to work with my dad and his products as far back as 1990 when I was living in Japan, and we had all of his products translated into Japanese. From that point on, back to school, living life, getting my degree, getting my education, going out practicing on my own. But the opportunity presented itself when I was living in Panama, trying to open up a practice. And then, I met Chris online through just being friends on Facebook and finding out what his products were, and finally coming home back to the United States and basically came to help my mom deal with life without my father, and seeing his literally veritable plethora of intellectual properties just in a box, and knowing, having the conversations with my dad before he passed that, we need to digitize everything and update everything. And it just, I always tell people, I didn't choose chiropractic. Chiropractic chose me. And in this journey, I didn't as much choose to preserve my father's legacy and preserve his intellectual property. I sort of was shoved in front of a train. and as I'm being shoved in front of this train, there's this guy, Chris Burfield, who was there to help pick me up and make sure I didn't run over, but to help direct that train in a proper direction, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, I'm going to direct this question at you, obviously. And I remember being on Facebook or seeing something come across my timeline, and there was this box, and it was all taped up, and it was in your house.
Yes.
And you were kind of secretive of what was in that. How excited were you when that box arrived?
Oh my God, dude. Like, it's so funny you bring that up. Well, first of all, I met Carey on Facebook. I'd never actually talked to him a day in my life. I knew Dr. Sig had kids. I didn't know their names or anything of that sort. And then one day, just to kind of backtrack a tiny bit here before I answer that question, Carey posted this picture on Facebook. It was, when people go on a weight loss journey, they usually wait until the very end and they post their before and afters, and they say, oh, look at me, I was here and now I'm here. Well, Carey posted just his before. And he was like, I've gained 30 pounds in the last year, and I am tired of being overweight, and I am posting this up for everybody to see that I am going to lose this weight and all this stuff. And I'm like looking at him, you know, and it's like he's got tattoos all over his body. I've got tattoos all over my body. I'm like, he's gained 30 pounds in the last year. I've gained 30 pounds in the last year. You know, he's, you know, a Sigafoose, obviously into chiropractic. I'm into chiropractic. And I mean, I think you get the point here. I think a real bromance started to develop, right? So like, so I ended up messaging him, and I was like, dude, like I've gained 30 pounds in the last year too. Like you know, I'm definitely down to lose some weight. And he said, well, how would you like to be accountability partners? And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. He's like, all right, go ahead and post your before picture. I was like, what? You mean without the after? And he was like, yeah, just post it. I gotta hold you accountable. So long story short, Carey is a lousy accountability partner because, and I am amazing because he lost 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and I lost nothing. So, but that's how we actually met. And then next thing I know, about a week later, he sends me this message and he says, so I've been internet stalking you. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, he goes, you do a lot of marketing for chiropractors. And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, wow, I'm like really impressed with all the stuff I've seen that you have out there and stuff. I really like your style. And he said, I have a proposition for you if you'd be interested. And I was like, okay. So we ended up, I believe we got on Skype, and it was either Skype or a phone call. And he started telling me, you know, about how, you know, obviously his dad had passed, and they were wanting to completely redo the website. And I said, well, send me the link. And I sent me the link. And Ed, I'm telling you, it was like one of those, I don't know if anybody will remember this, but it was like one of those GeoCity website templates from 2001, where GeoCities was like a free website where you could go and create a website, but like the templates were just like, you know, very archaic. But I looked at it and I was like, I asked Carey, I said, so does your dad actually did he sell products off this website? And he said, we've sold a few, but like most of the stuff my dad has sold has always been at his seminars. And, you know, whether it was Parker, or he was at Sherman or Palmer or New Beginnings or wherever.
DE, everything.
And I said, well, he ended up saying, how would you like to partner up with this and help me basically save my dad's legacy and repurpose this entire website and make it more readily and accessible for chiropractors to get their hands on this stuff? Because from my understanding, from what Carey was saying, is that most of the products were sold at seminars, and nobody really was even aware of the website. So after talking with Carey, you know, and I was like, you know, I'm in, man. What's the next step? Next thing I know, this big brown box. Well, it's not just like one box. It was like 4 or 5 boxes, but one of them was like huge. Shows up at my doorstep, and I felt like Indiana Jones. I did. I felt like I'd found the lost ark. Like when this thing showed up, I was just like, I can't even imagine what is in here. And I open it up, and it's like all of Dr. Sigafoose's intellectual property from like 30 years, and, you know, between the last 30 and 40 years probably. Yeah. And I was just absolutely awestruck. And like, you know, I told Carey, I said, I opened the box and like this bright glowing light came out. Angels started singing. Oh, you know, it's like the whole room lit up with light. My eyes like popped out of my head, and I just started going through everything. And there's not just Dr. James stuff in there, but like his audios and his DVDs, and a lot of it's in VHS tape and cassette tape format, like a lot of it. But there's like, there was like these old pictures of BJ Palmer, like original photos of like over 300 photos in this box of like BJ and the school and all. And I'm like, this is like crazy. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening, you know? And ended up, I went through it and I messaged Carey and I said, dude, there's a lot of VHS and cassette tapes in here. We're going to have to convert all those to MP3 and in video file format. And I said, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And he's like, I know, but I know you're up to it. I know you're up to the job, you know? So, but we've been working diligently. I mean, I know Carey personally has told me he's been putting in 12-hour days, you know, going through this and redigitizing everything and making it, you know, stuff that, I mean, Ed, there's stuff in there that people have never seen. Like it was recorded, like Dr. Sig went to an event and the talk was recorded and then never released. And it just sat there in a box in cassette tape format. And like when you go through and you listen to these things, I mean, you have no choice but to get fired up. I mean, the stuff like my friend Dr. Tabor Smith says, he's like, when I listen to that, Chris, it like fills me up inside. And I really think that, you know, what we're doing here is much bigger than ourselves. And, you know, I have a friend of mine that was telling about this, and this is the sad part. And this is one of the reasons why I think this is so important, is that I was talking to a friend of mine who graduated from Parker in 2014. And I was telling him, I said, man, I got Dr. James Sigafoose stuff at my house, like all his intellectual property. And he's like, oh, that's cool, man. And I was like, well, I said, you know, he passed away last year. And he was like, oh, he did? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, wow, man, he was young. And I was like, no, man. I said, he was like 82 or something like that. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, James Sigafoose, he's like that young bald-headed guy, right? That talks about philosophy all the time. And I was like, no, not at all. Like, I mean, this kid had like no clue who James Sigafoose was. And it just made me realize how big the purpose is of restoring all this stuff and making it available, not just for the older generation of chiropractors that have, you know, enjoyed Dr. Sig's work over the last 20, 30, 40 years, but for this new generation coming up that has never heard him, has never heard him speak on stage, has never heard a cassette tape.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Or, you know, talking about, or an MP3 now is what they're in, or a CD, or a DVD. So it's important. It's very, very important what we're doing.
I agree. And was there ever a moment in your mind, Chris, to reach out to Carey and go, hey, Carey, I never received that box?
No.
I'm just saying, you know, but seriously, Carey, I mean, honestly, I got to give you some props there.
Hold on. I see what you're saying. Like, I run to Mexico with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I got it now.
Exactly.
That went over my head for a second. I was like, what?
But I mean, it's props to Carey because, you know, he had so much trust, even knowing you just initially and having so much trust in you to send all of that original work to you. That's from what I've learned of Carey, and we've never met, but I know him, I feel like I know him really well, is that he goes with his gut, and it's taken him far.
Yeah, you know, and it's that, and you bring up such a good point. It really blew me away how much trust he had in me. And like, he even said to me, he said, man, my mom was like, you know, can you trust this guy? And he said, I just told my mom, I said, Mom, have you ever met one of those people that from the first moment you meet them, you just know that you can trust them? That's Chris. And like, that really meant a lot to me, Carey. And I don't know if I've told you that, but when you said that, I mean, that really meant a lot and really touched my heart that you would think that much of me, considering we didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Carey does. He goes with his gut a lot, and it's a good thing to have.
It's funny because it doesn't happen a lot, but within a short period of time, I've met this group of people, and you and Dr. Ed, you being one, because you're actually one of my mentors in helping me get the whole SigTalks things going, and your platform that you educated me on how to build a podcast is literally the landing page for all these unknown audios and some of the videos that I'm sharing with everyone. Mm-hmm. So I got the same feeling about Chris as I did about you, and it's like it was a very safe place, and I knew I found a new home and a new platform in which to share everything via the website and via the podcast. So you guys are my little, you know, my little happy, stable place, and I have the trust that I have is because you both exude it, you know. So
and it goes.
And you know
ways.
I'd like to also just kind of take a step back, and if we're looking, you know, down, you know, from 10,000 feet down at what's really going on here, like what you guys are trying to accomplish, it's no different than having the products, or having a product, I should say, selling it at a seminar. It's just now you're modernizing it. You're taking advantage of the internet. I mean, you're taking advantage of really being able to access chiropractors worldwide. That's the only difference. It's just playing big.
Yeah, for sure. And and with the relaunch of the site, it's like we could have easily put up just a web page or a few web pages, and had an about us page, and had a products page and a contact us page, and we could have done all that. But what we wanted to do with it is we really wanted to educate people on what is actually contained in this information. Like now, that probably a lot of people have heard Dr. Sigafoose talk over the years, and they're already familiar with his work. But one of the reasons for doing it the way we're doing it, which when you go to sigafoose.com, there's an opt-in box, and when you opt in, there's actually a series of 4 videos that you can watch. And each one, one of them, the first one, gives us everybody like a behind-the-scenes look at how Carey actually flew out here to Texas, and a behind-the-scenes look of all the stuff that Sigafoose.com is going to have to offer. But the next couple of videos are basically their actual full-length clips, like 10 Hours with Sigafoose was one of Dr. Sig's most popular products, according to Carey. Another one is the Higher Grounds seminar, which is in DVD format. And we're giving those away for free on the site, where people can go there and actually download the audio, download the video, and have those as free gifts. But like I said earlier, there's a younger generation that's coming up that has never heard this stuff. So we wanted to be able to just educate that generation of people on what it is that Sigafoose has to offer to the world. And he has to offer a lot. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it as well.
And Ed, it's the journey, like you, in your podcast, you always say, we all succeed via our successes and our failures. And I didn't want people to see that just meet up at the destination. I wanted them to see the journey that Chris and I have been on in releasing this, and that's how we want to release everything, because along with the journey comes the stories about where my father did this, why my father did this, where this seminar was at, or why it was done, and that's what you're going to get with these release. You're going to learn. You're not just going to say, oh, here's this audio series, let me listen to it. You're going to hear what it's about, get to see what it's about, get to listen to what it's about before you actually decide to make it your own.
Yeah, for example, like with the 10 Hours with Sigafoose collection, I think there's 8 audios in that collection, which I didn't know this, but like after talking with Carey and actually hearing his mother Patsy talk about it, like those audios were recorded over a 30-year time span. Like it's not like, okay, we're going to go record the next 10 audios right in a row, and we're going to make a product out of it. These were audios starting 30 years ago and being taped incrementally over 3 decades and then put into a product. So, it's that type of story that adds so much more value to it as well. And, I'm a big fan of the show on History Channel called American Pickers. And one of the things they always talk about when they go and they find, they're rummaging through somebody's, junkyard, and they pull out this old rusty, tail plate or something like that. There's always a story behind it. And that's that's the cool thing about how this is all being put out as well. People get to understand more of the history of James Sigafoose.
Yeah. And I find it really interesting too. And tell me if I'm wrong. I think that I find every year we're more and more as a profession deficient in what, people like Jim Sigafoose offered or Reggie Gold offered back then. I mean, every time that I listen to anything from either, these epic chiropractors, Fred Barch, or read something from them, and I start to institute or implement that into my practice, just those thoughts or those, I mean, I always found that people really connect with that. It's almost like a lost art.
It really is. And I have another friend that graduated from Parker 2-3 years ago, I believe. And what's funny is that like he started off working as a chiropractic assistant in my office. And after about 1.5 years working in the office, he decided he wanted to go to school to be a chiropractor. And he ended up going. And then this kid, like when he was in the environment, and I'm not saying the school did this to him or anything like that, but when he was in the environment where like I was around him, we would talk chiropractic philosophy all the time, the principles of chiropractic. And this kid was like really on fire and on purpose for chiropractic, and he understood the philosophy. And then he came out and he went and opened his own clinic, and he didn't even open a chiropractic office. He opened a medical massage clinic where they have a nurse practitioner, they do a massage, they have a medical doctor that does injections and all this other stuff. And it's like, what happened? It's like, what happened in those 3 or 4 years that you were gone, And it's like, there was a change in mindset. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's, it was the school or anything like that, but like the people he was around, I think, when you have that lack of philosophy, and a lot of people don't really understand the philosophy or the principles behind chiropractic because it's just not taught. You might have maybe a semester of it and that's it. And it's not really taught, and then it gets lost. And then as a result, you see chiropractic starting to morph and change. And I think something like this will help preserve the philosophy and the principles of chiropractic.
Carey, where do you see yourself? Like, where are you going to take Sigafoose.com next?
Well, as far as I can take it, the biggest goal right now is to save and preserve everything, and to get it so a lot of these tapes and audios are deteriorating. So that's the primary goal. But then the secondary goal is I've always wanted to be an educator. My bachelor's degree is in American history, and so it's American history and American literature, and I've taught overseas as far as English and language goes. And if I could get in and continue to do the course of educating people on the chiropractic principle and philosophy, because I'm learning it again all over myself as I'm listening to my father's tapes, but to be able to do that with other people, and to educate them, I think that's where I'm taking this. So, and that's where I'm going.
I love the idea too of it being an archive. It really is. It's a, we can circle back to that lost art, and I think it does need to be, maintained for. As a legacy for our profession.
That's my goal. It's to maintain the legacy and to see if I have something to add to it.
Well, you definitely do. I mean, I'm a fan of your podcast. So I mean, part of my the favorite part of my podcast is when I hear your interpretations of your father's work, and it's brilliant. So Chris, how can doctors find out more about Sigafoose.com? Like what do they need to do? Tell them what they need to do right now.
I mean, right now I would just, I would stop listening to this podcast. I would go open up your browser and type in Sigafoose.com and head on over there and opt in with your email address and watch the free videos that we have given to you as our gift just for checking out the website. And then by being on the email list, you'll get continued updates when new products are released. Also, Carey has an amazing blog that he updates weekly with really solid practice building and marketing content. And I'm actually going to be helping contribute to that as well. The marketer side of me, I will be teaching on that blog. But he also has this amazing podcast called SigTalks. And by getting on the email list, you can be notified when a new episode of SigTalks is released. And what Carey does with SigTalks, if nobody's familiar with it, is he takes audio recordings of his dad and he plays them. And he'll play 15, 20, 30-minute segments of it, and then afterwards give his interpretation of what his dad was just talking about. It's like you said, Dr. Ed, it's wonderful. I mean, one of the best parts is hearing how Carey interpreted it. So, but just go to sigafoose.com and then get access to those 4 free videos and check it out, and just stay tuned in. Tuned into the tick, as we say, and what's being done here, like, as Carey said in one of our videos, if you can't find chiropractic philosophy this year, or if you can't learn how to market your practice this year, then there's something wrong between the 6 inches of space between your head, because because the content that is being put out to the subscribers and followers of this movement is just it's phenomenal, and you're not going to get it anywhere else.
So amazing. And we'll bring it back to SigTalks too. And I know that Carey, you've had a huge effect on chiropractors, not just within your own circle of influence, like we could say within the States, but worldwide. You get super excited when you have a download in Cairo, or
I'm such a dork.
No, that's
well,
cool.
I had a
the
Russian
Federation.
Cool. Yeah, I had a chiropractor email me an amazing message the other day that he felt like he had actually found his purpose again and become more principled as a chiropractor based on the Chiropractic Philanthropist, and listening to people like both of you who've been on my show. And he's in Turkey, so it's really unique. Yeah, how powerful is that? And I see that what you are doing with Sigafoose.com is just going to take it to a whole other level, though. And I really honor that, and I respect that. So and one other thing I'll just mention is, I remember, Carey, when you did decide that you were going to go ahead with preserving this legacy for Jim Sigafoose, for your dad, that you had reached out to me and you talked about Chris and yourself and I being the 3 chiropractic amigos.
Yes, and here we are.
And I totally feel that way. So, I'm 100% behind what you guys are doing. And
same here.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
love me some Dr. Ed Osburn. That's for sure.
and Dr. Ed, before we go, I'm gonna put you on the line here, and I'm gonna ask if you will write a nice little blog article for Sigafoose.com about the benefits of podcasting and chiropractic. So I'm not saying tomorrow, I'm not saying next month, I'm not saying next year, but in the future, I would love if you would be a contributor and write a nice little, a short little article for us.
Yeah, I could definitely write it. You may have to spell check it and grammar check it.
I'll actually send that over to my 12-year-old niece in Belgium, because she can spell better than me.
Carey likes to do that. He likes to put people on the spot, like at the end. Like, he did that to me when he was here in Texas, and I forget what he was like. What did you say at the very end of your podcast that day?
I can't remember.
He said something like, he had this little tagline, and he said, "And Chris."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Market from the heart."
Give love.
The name of my podcast. He was like, "No," and he's like, and then
give love, do serve from the heart.
Yeah,
what I was trying to
serve from the heart. I was like, don't put me on the spot like that, man.
All right, so listeners, no, my pleasure. So listeners, don't forget to head over to sigafoose.com, put in your email, make sure you're getting that content every week. And listening to more about, chiropractic and, getting back to our roots and principles as chiropractors is so vital. And thanks, guys. I've been honored to be hosting this episode of SigTalks today.
Thanks for doing it. I had a lot of fun.
Is this your first 3-way interview?
You could say that, yeah. Oh, wait, no. I had one with Doctors Warner before.
Oh,
so.
okay. Because we got East Coast, Central Coast, and Canada. We're tri-coastal.
We'll have to do this again. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Ed.
My pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I enjoyed giving it. First off, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Ed Osburn and to Chris Burfield for taking part of this sneak peek behind-the-scene look at Sigafoose.com. I've been working towards this for over 25 years. I started this journey in Tokyo, Japan, and always wanted to continue working with my father and with his doctor and patient education material ever since then. But life got in the way. School, practice, relationships, alcohol, you name it. My journey, be it the correct path or not, kept me from doing what I had always wanted to do. That being working with my father on getting not only his message out there, but to bring chiropractic to the forefront. I got lost along the way, but losing someone, my brother first and then my father, this past July, brought me back from wherever it is I was. Was it fate? Is it my brother and my father pulling the strings from wherever it is they are watching over us? I don't know, but what I do know is after 48 years, I have found my path, and it's one that I don't plan on veering from anytime soon. So with that, I hope you take a moment, go over to Sigafoose.com, and take a peek at what we're doing. Take care, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in more of Dr. Sigafoose's material, head on over for your daily dose of chiropractic philosophy to www.sigafoose.com and register for our free newsletter and to find today's audio clip of Dr. Sigafoose in its entirety. Remember to give, love, do, and serve.